So, somebody just shared with me a video of Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople, an Eastern Orthodox patriarch, of him gifting a Quran to a Muslim leader. And somebody asked me, hey, what is going on with this? It looks like the whole world is turning upside down. And I want to talk about that situation and a few others. And I want to not only talk about this in Eastern Orthodoxy, but also some similar incidents in Catholicism as well. That way we keep everything balanced. So that is what we're going to explore today. Coming up next on the Michael Lofton Show. All right, well, thanks for joining. I want to remind you, hit the subscribe button and the like button. I would greatly appreciate your support for this channel. You know, let me just say at the outset, look, I am not here to bash Eastern Orthodoxy on this particular point or anything like that. This isn't a gotcha. This isn't a, oh, look how bad things are over here, we're so much better kind of thing. Like, that's not at all what I'm trying to do here. Now, I know there are going to be people who don't watch the video. They will just see the title of the show and they'll rush to the comment section to condemn me and say, oh, you're always just trying to use this as an opportunity to bash the Eastern Orthodox and stuff like that. That's just not at all the case, but such is the nature of doing things online. The vast majority of time, people just don't actually watch the content. They have a gut reaction and it's an emotional reaction. They rush to the comment section and condemn you for something you never said or did. And I get that 99% of the time. So I kind of expect that here. In fact, be on the lookout for how many comments you'll see in the comment section condemning me for this very thing, which would prove my point all the more that they didn't actually watch the video. Okay, so look, again, not here to bash Eastern Orthodoxy, but I do want to point out that there are things that take place in the Catholic Church when it comes to ecumenical relations or even interreligious dialogue that a lot of Catholics are dissatisfied with. And I understand, I totally get it, completely get it. And a lot of people will think, well, look, there's all these issues in Catholicism. Let me go over to Eastern Orthodoxy where I don't have to deal with these things. You know, the thing is, however, they end up finding out, well, it is going on, you know, also in Eastern Orthodoxy. And then a lot of people are left wondering, where do I go from here? What do I do at this point? And they're very confused. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. But let me first just show you the video of Patriarch Bartholomew gifting a Quran to a Muslim Russian leader, followed then by Patriarch Kirill of Moscow, who says that, you know, Christians and Muslims worship the same God, followed by the Patriarch of Alexandria, who says the same thing, and his predecessor, who shockingly said that Muhammad is a true prophet of God. Yes, the Patriarch of Alexandria, Eastern Orthodox Patriarch of Alexandria, said that very openly, very clearly. And this isn't unique, and this isn't a one-off thing. This is something that we see very, very often. Although it does not represent all Eastern Orthodox, there are some Eastern Orthodox that denounce this as pan-ecumenism, heresy, and they distance themselves from it. But, you know, a lot of times their patriarchs are doing things like this. So I want to show that to you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about this phenomenon, as well as maybe exploring a few instances where we've seen this with a number of popes in the post-conciliar period. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's take a look at the video, and then I'll tell you more about when this took place and what the context was and all that good stuff. So let me share my screen. Please let me know if you have any difficulties in hearing and seeing the material. Let's go ahead and dive in together. Okay.
I have a small souvenir, small and great. Souvenir to Daphne and Mukhtar. This is the Holy Quran, the sacred book of our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Okay, so he says it's a sacred book, holy book for Muslims, and then he also says he has a small but great gift. Watch that again.
I have a small souvenir, small and great. Souvenir to Daphne and Mukhtar.
I have a small but great souvenir, small but great.
This is the Holy Quran.
This is the Holy Quran,
the sacred book of our Muslim brothers.
The sacred book of our Muslim brothers. And then he presents it. Okay. So for anybody who's saying the audio is really low, sorry, I can't increase it anymore, but that's what he just said here. Okay. Well, what's going on? Let me read this to you. It was just sent to me, but believe it or not, this happened in 2009. It's not new, right? You may have thought, well, it's the first I've heard of it, right? Well, yeah, it probably is the first time you've heard of it, but it's not new. I quickly did a search of it and found out 2009, Patriarch Bartholomew gifts Russian Muslim leader with a Quran. November 9th, Bartholomew of Constantinople gave the Quran as a present to the chairman of the Caucasus Muslim Board. For the 60th anniversary, the book was handed to the Sheikh in front of delegations of local Orthodox churches, Vatican, and Islamic communities worldwide at a solemn jubilee ceremony held in Gulistan Palace in Baku. The head of Constantinople, Patriarch representation at the European Union Metropolitan Emmanuel of France, handed the Quran to Pasha Zaid and highlighted that this present was a sign of special respect from Patriarch Bartholomew. Right, and that's naturally going to make a lot of people just kind of scratch their heads, right? Well, I mean, it's very clear the Quran denies, for example, the Trinity and the deity of Jesus. And so for a patriarch who holds to those things as dogmatic and central, it is a little odd, right? I mean, it would. I mean, let's just flip it around. If I saw some, really important Muslim imam, gifting the Gospel of John to a Christian friend or something, it would also make me scratch my head. I mean, I have seen rare cases where it's a very minority position, but I have seen some Muslims say, hey, you can actually read the Gospel of John in accord with Islam. I don't think that that's accurate, but I know there's some Muslims who think that, but that's a minority position. Most Muslims would say, yeah, no, the Gospel of John, there's a lot of things in there that's incompatible with Islam. And, that's just simply going to be the case. There's a lot of things in the Quran that's absolutely incompatible with everything that Patriarch Bartholomew stands for, right? And so it is odd, and it makes you scratch your head, right? It just, I don't know. Now, again, look, not to, pick on Eastern Orthodox here. I mean, we have Pope John Paul II, St. John Paul II, kissing a Quran here, right? We've discussed that many times on the channel before. We've discussed Pope Benedict going into the Blue Mosque and praying in the Qubd stance here, an Islamic prayer stance right next to an imam praying with them in a mosque, right? And he wasn't the first one to do it. John Paul II was the first pope to pray in a mosque. Then Benedict prays with Muslims here in the mosque, and we've seen also Pope Francis do the same. And I do suspect Pope Leo is going to do the same. So, not trying to pick on Orthodox, we see this with the Pope, right? And so, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pope gifted a Quran to a Muslim leader. I really wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I've seen, maybe it's not entirely analogous, but I have seen the Pope gift, like a chalice set to an Anglican bishop that in reality, Catholicism says this isn't even an ordained priest, let alone a bishop, according to Pope Leo XIII, on his decree on the nullity of Anglican orders. And so I've seen that kind of stuff take place, and it does just kind of leave you scratching your head thinking, what's going on here, right? So we see stuff like that again with the popes, but back to the situation with the patriarchs. This isn't a one-off thing. This isn't unique. Take a look at this. This is from I think this may be a Muslim website, but you could also see Orthodox reporting on the same event. In more recent times, Patriarch Parthenios III of Alexandria, that was the previous Patriarch of Alexandria, before the present one, called Muhammad an apostle who worked for the kingdom of God and called him a true prophet of God. If you look at Orthodox sources. And they'll say that he said things like the Holy Quran and things of that sort. And some Orthodox have denounced that and opposed to that, right? But this is pretty common among some of the bishops and patriarchs in Eastern Orthodoxy. The more recent Patriarch of Alexandria has also said similar things like Muslims and Christians worship the same God. Here he has a message, a letter written to Muslims on the feast of Ramadan. It says the most sacred month of the Islamic calendar, the chief month of personal worship and great awareness of the divine for every faithful Muslim, ends today with festive, joyous season of Eid al-Fitr. But this year's celebration is of particular importance because it takes place at a time when the blessed land of Egypt is on the verge of history. And he goes on and, has a lot of wonderful things to say to Muslims on the feast of Ramadan. Okay, so this is back in 2011, and we've seen them elsewhere again say they worship the same God. So this stuff is pretty common. Here's a short where I covered Patriarch Kirill of Moscow saying that Christians and Muslims worship the same God. We have it on video, so let me just go ahead and play it for you. And please let me know if there's any difficulty in hearing the audio. Patriarch Kirill of Moscow says that Christians and Muslims worship the same God. Watch this. He says,
Поэтому от всего сердца
therefore, with all your heart, pray to,
молитесь, просите у Господа помощи. Я знаю,
ask the Lord for help. I know that
что здесь и христиане, и мусульмане.
here both Christians and Muslims,
Каждый обращается к одному и тому же Богу,
everyone turns to the same God,
Творцу. И вот в ответ на
the Creator, and in
это
response
мы получаем
to
реальную
this, we receive
Божью
real God's help. So he wants to say, hey, Christians, Muslims, we're praying to the same God. And when we pray to him, we both, Christians and Muslims, receive God's help. Okay, so we've seen that with Patriarch of Moscow. So you can't just say like, oh, this is Bartholomew of Constantinople thing. No, it's also Alexandria. And you can't be like, well, it's just this one. No, the previous guy did it too. And you can't say, well, it's just those two guys. No, it's also in Moscow. And I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and show you numerous others. This isn't, a small group of people. Again, there's a reason why you have a subset of Eastern Orthodox who call themselves true Orthodox, who are constantly decrying what they call world orthodoxy and pan-ecumenism and its heresy, and they fight against all the ecumenical events between the Orthodox patriarchs and the Pope, and also interreligious dialogue and interreligious events. It's a very, very common thing. Here is Patriarch Bartholomew on video. I can't say in 4K, maybe 720p, but on video, saying that everyone worships the one true God, not just Christians and Muslims, everyone. Take a look at this. And he says all religions, not just the persons, the religions. Take a look at this.
And to give the opportunity to human beings to see each other as brothers, because we are all created by the same God, and as such, we are brothers and sisters between ourselves. We have the same Heavenly Father, whatever we call Him. And as being His...
We of all religions
children,
have the same Heavenly Father.
Of course, God is but one, independently on the name we give Him, Allah or Yahweh,
Right.
and so on. God is one, and we are His children, and we have to love and understand each other.
So he says, whether it's Allah or Yahweh, God is one. And he's talking here about just not the persons, but the religion. And here, this is an Eastern Orthodox website denouncing it, right? So again, there are Orthodox who don't accept this. And, anytime Patriarch Bartholomew or any of the other patriarchs says something, they'll respond to it and say, hey, we don't agree with this, right? So it happens. Now, again, we've seen this happen also in Catholicism, which I've covered extensively. Not going to rehash that here, but I do want to point out this is not unique to Eastern Orthodoxy. We see it in the Catholic Church. We also see it among some of the Oriental Orthodox as well. Okay, so pretty much everybody who is of an apostolic church If you have apostolic succession, your community is doing this, okay, whether you realize it or not. Again, I don't say that to bash anyone. I don't say that as a tu quoque, kind of argument. That's not what's going on here. My big thing that I want to demonstrate is that, the grass isn't greener on the other side, from whatever angle you're looking at this from, right? So if you're looking at this from Eastern Orthodoxy, looking to Catholicism, on this issue, the grass isn't greener. You look at it from Catholicism to Eastern Orthodox, grass isn't greener. You're going to see the same difficulties. Look, pull up any ecumenical prayer event by the Pope, any interreligious event by the Pope, and it's not just the Pope and other religions there. It's the Pope as well as Orthodox patriarchs, Eastern Orthodox patriarchs, Oriental Orthodox patriarchs, you name them. I just showed 2 weeks ago, the Pope praying next to a Pride LGBT woman minister, as well as Anglicans. Eastern Orthodox Patriarch of Alexandria was there praying. Patriarch, the Coptic Oriental Orthodox Patriarch was present. Lutherans, you name it. Everybody was represented there. And they were all praying together, like the Our Father, for example. They all joined in and prayed the Our Father together. It was an event put on by the Pope, in this particular case at the Colosseum. But lest you think, oh, this is a papacy thing, everybody else is there too. All the other apostolic churches are there, and all the ecclesial communities that don't have apostolic succession, they're there too. Everybody's implicated in this stuff of ecumenism, interreligious meetings, interreligious prayers. We see all of that, right? So the grass isn't greener on this particular issue, no matter where you go. And I don't think some people realize that, right? They're just kind of in their one little box. They don't realize this stuff is taking place anywhere you go. So it's going to be something you have to grapple with no matter what. And what I really want to highlight in all of this is the massive gap between online Christianity, whether we're talking about Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Oriental Orthodoxy, and the clergy. There's a massive gap between the two. You go online, I don't care if it's a discussion forum that's Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Lutheran, Anglican, I don't care what it is. You go online and you'll see a lot of just comments condemning ecumenism, interreligious dialogue, all of this stuff, like vehement statements condemning it. But the reality is there's a massive gap between that online version of these Christian communities and the actual clergy. So you can find plenty of Catholics online condemning all of this stuff. But then the next day, the Pope is going to be praying right next to some gay priest minister from the Anglican Communion or something. You can condemn it and see that condemnation all day long, but the next day the Pope's going to do something. And it's not just Catholicism. Orthodox can condemn this and say, look at what the Catholics are doing. Look how goofy they're being. And then literally the next day, Patriarch Bartholomew is at that same video footage comes out of Patriarch Bartholomew or Patriarch Kirill or just whoever or his representatives at these events participating in it. Any event you want to condemn, whether it's Assisi 86 or the most recent version that we saw, the new Assisi that we saw just a couple weeks ago, watch the whole video footage. Everybody's there. Catholics, Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, you name it, everybody's there. And I have to point out, this version of online depictions of this scenario just simply doesn't speak for the reality of what we see with the clergy. It just doesn't. They're just two different things. And there's some people who just live in the online scene, and they're living in that little bubble. And I don't know how they're living in that bubble, when literally right in front of their face, the Pope, the patriarchs, the bishops, the priests are undermining everything that they're saying and standing for. And you can't pretend that's not happening. You can't ignore it. You have to weigh in on it. You have to say something. And you have to account for it. So I believe, Catholics have to account for it. Eastern Orthodox have to account for it. Oriental Orthodox have to account for it. Assyrian Church of the East have to account for it. Lutherans have to account for it. Anglicans have to account for it. Everybody has to account for this phenomenon in the massive gap between online depictions of these communities versus how the communities actually are among the clergy. Because there's a huge, huge difference. Online, you'll see very strong positions of hostility. The clergy don't appear to feel that way. The bishops, the patriarchs, the Pope, they have the exact opposite position. And that has to be grappled with. And we can't pretend the grass is greener anywhere on this particular issue. Now, I mean, a very common response, inevitable, and you'll see it in the comment section on this video. Watch. Whenever people go and post the comments, they won't watch this part of the video. They never do. They won't watch this. Because what are they going to say? They'll say, well, you know what? Our patriarchs aren't infallible like your Pope is. So it's a problem for you guys when, the Pope does this, but it's not a problem for us when Patriarch Bartholomew does this. Okay? Very common response that you often hear. Our patriarchs aren't infallible. Well, look, as I've said numerous times, well, the popes aren't infallible when they do this anyway. Okay? When John Paul II does this, is he infallible? You think every act of the Pope is infallible? You think when he walks upstairs, that's an infallible act? You think when he goes into the bathroom, that's infallible? No. When he picks up a Quran, that's also not infallible. Okay? When it comes to papal infallibility, that's going to be ex cathedra. So ex cathedra teachings. Where did he do this ex cathedra? He didn't. It's a nonsensical question anyway. Actions aren't ex cathedra. Teachings are, right? So people would have an argument if there was some kind of ex cathedra teaching about, the inherent goodness of kissing a Quran or something. Maybe then there would be a proper response. But you can't just say, well, our patriarchs aren't infallible. Popes aren't infallible when they do this either. So it's the same problem for everyone all around. And if this is a problem for Catholics, it's also a problem for Eastern Orthodox when they do the same thing. It's the same issue. Gifting a Quran, kissing a Quran, it's the same thing. It's a problem for everyone. And so you can't pretend that this is somehow, it's different for you guys when it happens. No, it's not. It's the same for everyone. It's the same tension that everyone has to grapple with. Now, again, I know people won't watch this part of the video. They're going to rush to the comment section and say things like that. Keep in mind, for those of y'all who do pay attention, I want y'all to go and pay attention for those comments and maybe let them know in the comment section, you just proved Michael's point. Just say something like that. So again, the purpose of this is not at all to bash other communities or to say, you know what, it's a tu quoque thing. No, the point is to just simply say this. Don't pretend like this is an isolated case with one community alone. And don't pretend that it's a case of like one patriarch alone. And don't pretend that this is an issue of infallibility. And don't pretend that the grass is greener in any community on this particular issue. It's just simply not. And that is the point that I want to have illustrated in this video. I hope I've done that successfully. And if you have appreciated this video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate your support for this channel. It's going to do it for now. See you later.